And here we are. This is
Thank you.
The third week, and we're changing the name from King of the Court to Beam City Sports. And if you didn't hear already, I'm here with a new guest, Devin Neel, lifelong best friend for how long? About 17 years now?
Yeah.
17
just about
years?
Kindergarten, whatever. I don't know. I'm not good at math, so.
Yeah, we've been friends since day one. And it's really awesome that, me and you get to be on the radio together today. But what we're going to go over today is Team USA playing against Serbia early this morning. They also played against Australia the other day. They've looked pretty dominant in stretches, but they've also shown some weaknesses that, not everyone would expect out of this team from, being such a dominant, put-together team. But, we're also going to get into the Sacramento Kings Summer League. We're going to get into some rookies that we've noticed, and we're going to also talk some baseball in the end of the show, talking about the San Francisco Giants, talking about the Oakland A's, the MLB All-Star Game, all that coming ahead. USA versus Australia. Let's get back into it. Australia, they have a lot of NBA guys on there. They got Josh Giddey, Dyson Daniels. They also have Matthew Dellavedova and Patty Mills. So those guys, made an impact and made it a game against USA the other day. What'd you see out there?
I didn't catch the Australia game, but from the highlights I did see, it looked like Josh Giddey, he was cooking. He was. I saw a few highlights in a row from him out there. He was just breaking down the USA defense. I don't know who was on him, but he had a couple scores, a couple big possessions right in a row.
Josh Giddey, thinking about him, he just got traded to the Chicago Bulls. He's kind of going to get to lead that team now. What he's showing in these Olympics is pretty exciting for Bulls fans out there. Just being able to lead his Australian team to make it even a close game against Team USA. But some things we noticed from this game, our guy, old Sacramento King, Tyrese Halliburton, really came up clutch, hit 2 back-to-back threes in the end of this game to really put it away. Something I noticed from this game also was USA, when they move the ball and they're not playing hero ball, that's when they're at their best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like, obviously you have Steve Kerr coaching the team, so whenever that offense looks like, old, prime, Golden State Warriors offense, that's, I think, the best that they're going to play throughout the tournament, throughout the Olympics.
Yeah, I really do agree. And, some of those guys out there that, are not used to moving the ball like that on their teams, like Anthony Edwards or Devin Booker or something like that, they're really, it's taken them some time to gel with this team, but when they do get going and get downhill and move the ball, it is very exciting to watch. Today we saw them play against the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, and the USA did pull away. It was a very close game in the first quarter. It was a tie game at the end of the first. All those guys on Serbia were just playing their hearts out, and Jokic was leading the way. An emotional leader more than in the stat sheet today, I noticed. But, those guys on USA, they got Steph going early. He was 6 for 9 from 3, ended with 24 points. So good that they got him more involved.
Yeah, I like seeing Steph get involved, especially early. I think the more assertive and the more you could get him to do early, that's going to just make it that much easier for the USA throughout the rest of the game. I also liked AD. You might not see it in his points. He only had 7 today, but he also had 6 rebounds and 6 blocks. So I liked seeing him play more with Bam when they're on the floor together, and it kind of allows him to play against some of the smaller bigs, some of the smaller fours, and that's where I think his defensive ability really shines.
Yeah, I agree. AD and Bam, they kind of both don't want to play the 5.
Yeah.
There's AD is big enough to play the 5, but he wants to stretch the floor. He wants to be out on that perimeter. But playing with Bam, it really has worked, and they've both been able to, work well together. And the defense, like you said, is just when those two are out on the floor, it's like it changes the game. Versus when they just have Embiid out there. Embiid has really been in foul trouble most of this Olympics so far. Hasn't looked like the best player in the NBA. So I think USA does need to go with more of like a defensive-oriented lineup. Maybe bring Embiid off the bench, put AD out there or something like that for like the next challenges they'll have.
Yeah, no, that's definitely when they're at their best defensively, is both when AD and then Bam are on the floor together. And then especially if you could throw Drew Holiday in there and just have them 3 on the floor together, then that's when they're really going to be at their best defensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And USA does have a few days off before their next game, so hopefully they're well rested and they're ready to go against their next matchup, which will be Their next matchup will be against South Sudan. So not too tough of a matchup. Don't know how many NBA guys are really on South Sudan. But next they'll have Puerto Rico after that, who I do know has Jose Alvarado, who is a FIBA legend. He really starts cooking in the FIBA.
They beat Lithuania to get to the Olympics, didn't they?
Yeah. So they put out some good teams already. So watch out for Puerto Rico coming up. But just an NBA move real quick before we move on that I thought was a big move was Gary Trent Jr. signing to the Milwaukee Bucks. They really need a 3-and-D guy out there to probably start at the 2 for him, just someone to make some shots because last year it was really all on Dame and Giannis. But do you think the Bucks can really be title contenders coming up, especially with this move?
With this move, I don't know. I would like to see them give back to, especially having some guys that are more, defensive first, having them, especially with Giannis and Dame on the floor at the same time. Then that's, I think, when they had Drew Holiday, when he was going on defense, like that was when they were really, really contending for titles, and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They won the finals, so I think they should probably look for. I don't think if that's the move, they might need to look for a couple more smaller defensive move because I think when you got good defenders on the floor with Giannis and Dame, then it just makes it easier on them, obviously on defense, to expend less energy, and then they go to work on offense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But let's get this phone calls going. If you guys want to call in, please call in at 916-400-1513 and give us your takes on, the Olympics, the Sacramento Kings, or anything that sports related that you want to talk to us about. So please call in whenever and we'll get that going. But while we wait on some calls coming in, the Sacramento Kings have been playing the Summer League lately and they haven't looked too great, honestly. What'd you notice out there from the Kings?
I don't know, especially the first game. It's looking like they're coming out very sloppy. Obviously, a lot of turnovers, a lot of fouling. You want to see them be aggressive on defense, especially like some of the guys like Colby and Keon who could see playing time on the big team this year. So you want to see them being aggressive, but not fouling as much. You know what I'm saying? And then not turning the ball over that much. They started sloppy their last 2 Summer League games, so they got to clean that up definitely a little bit.
Yeah, we got Doug Christie out there being the coach. I've seen a lot of buzz lately about how good of a Summer League coach he's been and how many people think he's going to end up getting a job in the NBA coming up soon. So it's good that we still have him on our staff, and he's just such a good guy to motivate his players.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of the coaches have been getting plucked off of Mike Brown's staff the last couple of years. So that's just says even more about the organization here and Mike Brown, I feel like. So Doug Christie in a couple of years will probably definitely have a job somewhere, or at least have an opportunity somewhere if he wants to take it.
Yeah, I think he will too. And he is a Sacramento legend, so I do hope he stays in Sac with the Kings. But he's working hard. Something I noticed from the Summer League the other day was an interview with Colby Jones after their first win. Colby dropped 25 and had 6 rebounds. So after the game, he said that he had a phone call with Doug Christie, and Doug just wanted him to play harder. Colby had a bad game the game before, and he wasn't talking about his missed shots. He wasn't talking about, his stats. He was just talking about his effort out there. And Colby really said he made it a point to go out there and play as hard as he could, and he ended up with 25 and a win. So that's what happens when you listen to Doug Christie.
Oh, yeah, and he's going to preach effort over anything else. So it's good to see him getting it out of these guys, especially the ones that hopefully are going to make an impact with the rest of the team, later this fall and into the year.
Yeah. Someone we do got to mention is Keon Ellis. He, in the California Classic about a week ago, he was lighting it up. He was dropping 30, seemed like every game. And he just looked like the best player out there. And that really gave me confidence that I did think he should be the starter coming into the year with that defense on, have Monk off the bench so Keon can guard the best outside perimeter player. But he's been struggling in this Las Vegas Summer League.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of what we saw with Keegan last year. Granted, he didn't struggle as much, through the Summer League and the California Classic, but it's a lot of him trying to do different things and not just be they obviously still want him to be the 3-and-D guy, right? So we've seen he can catch and shoot. We know he can shoot from the corners, and we know he's going to play defense. So I think they're kind of wanting him to take on a bigger role, and that's playmaking for himself and handling the ball for himself, creating, kind of the same things that they wanted Keegan to do this last year. So I think it's really important, especially for Colby, too. If he wants to play at all on the Kings this year, then especially that effort Doug Christie was talking about, and then they have to show that they can not just be there and be a guy in the corner that can knock down the shot, but they can create for their teammates that are on the floor as well.
Yeah, yeah. Especially last year, it was really when Monk went down with the injury. I really noticed just how much the Kings don't have any creators on offense besides De'Aaron. They really relied on like Keegan to be more of that, Harrison even. But yeah, if Keon can develop that more into his game and not just be such a steady shooter and a defender only, like I think that would really level up his game. But
especially if he is going to come off the bench this year to start, and if Kevin Huerter is going to start, then I think if he's not playing with Monk, I think that's really going to help him and the bench unit as well. If he can create and he can play make.
Yeah, he is more of a two guard to me, though. I do think right now he's not really a backup point. I think he is more of just a catch and shoot guy. But, his stats, we'll go over him real quick. In his first game, he had 2 points, 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. And then in the other game, he had 7 points, went 3 for 10 from the field, and 1 for 5 from 3. So hopefully Keon gets back on track. I know Summer League isn't. It doesn't tell us all. It doesn't tell us all. Like last year with the Warriors, I talked to the Santa Cruz Warriors head coach about it. Brandon Pajemski had a horrible summer league, and they weren't sure if he was even going to be able to play in the G League after watching him in the summer league last year. And then now look at him. He's the starting shooting guard on the team.
Ended up being a guy who got a lot of important minutes last year for that team, especially down the stretch, against the Kings in that playing game and all the way down the stretch of the season. A lot of important playing time.
Yeah. And now he's probably going into the year as an untouchable piece. The Warriors don't want to trade him for Lauri Markkanen, and they want to start him at the shooting guard. So it's really crazy to see how far he's come, and that shows you that Summer League is not everything.
That's more of what you want to see out of Summer League. You want to see guys come into their own more and and work on other things that they might not use every game in the season, but when the time comes and they need it, then it's there.
Yeah. We're just going to pose the question out there. I want you to think about it for a sec. Who do you think the Sacramento Kings should start next year at the two guard? Because there's a lot of different options. There's Malik, there's Keon, and there's Kevin Huerter. Those are pretty much 3 guys. And if you have anything to say on that, please call in at 916-400-1513, and we'll get you live on air. But while we think about that for a second, I just wanted to bring up Drew Timme for the Sacramento Kings Summer League. He's been dominating, college legend. Drew Timme, he had 19 points last game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and I really do think he could end up being a backup big on this team in the future.
Really exciting, really a guy that you're looking at that, you maybe want to give, what do we have, a couple two-way spots left, stuff like that. So really a guy who's looking at grabbing one of those spots, and when you see stuff like that, it just makes you even more excited, and you want him to grab that spot even more. So, and a guy like Isaiah Crawford too. I've been really excited about Isaiah Crawford, and just the length and just how big he is. He's not that tall, but his arms. He's another guy like Keon, where he's not the tallest, but his arms are for somebody way taller than he would be. So
yeah,
I'm really excited to see him, and I honestly hope those two are the two that grab those last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Also, someone I noticed, another rookie the Kings got was Isaac Jones in the Summer League. You said you like Crawford more, but I think Jones is also really athletic. I think that's really all he has in his game right now, though, is being super athletic.
Yeah.
He needs to develop a lot more. Hopefully he can do that in the G League this year. But just looking down the line, I do think that wasn't a horrible draft pick. Drafting someone, a long wing, like you said, who can pretty much do it all. Like, he's just out there. He can defend every position, and he just needs to develop more on the offensive end.
Yeah, I think that's just more of what the Kings have been looking for, especially since they signed DeRozan. Is just maybe not that big of a name, but somebody long and stocky like that, and who can just guard multiple positions. Because especially in the West, there's a lot of really good 3s and 4, a lot of great wings. So they really, just want somebody who could, bring better defense than somebody, anybody on the Kings last year. We only had Fox and Keon that were probably our best defenders. So.
Yeah. Also, Keegan also took a big jump last year, but yeah. So if you guys want to call in again, it's 916-400-1513, and we'll get you live on air. But, some rookies before we go to our first break in about 10 minutes that, I've noticed so far. The number 1 pick from the Atlanta Hawks, Zachary Ricochet, really has not gotten that much buzz. And I don't remember a number 1 pick getting like this little of talked about time.
I have not seen anything.
Yeah.
Like usually, a lot of number 1 picks have a lot of social media buzz. Like obviously, they got Bronny. Bronny's I feel like more of the attention is on him, as it should be. But this is definitely the least hype I've seen for number one pick in the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's crazy that Bronny is really the 55th pick in the draft, and he's, getting posted about every single day, talked about every day, compared to, like, the number one pick, Zachary Richardson, who's actually having a very good summer league. I've watched him a couple times. He's really impressed me just with his shot making and, his defensive ability. But I do think it is kind of crazy that, I would compare him to Michael Porter Jr., and when you think about Michael Porter Jr., you really don't think about a number one pick in the draft.
No, not really. But granted, he is very good. But I don't think what pick was he in his draft?
MPJ went about 13.
Yeah, so
but he
that's
was supposed
probably
to
where
go.
you would see him because of the injuries.
Yeah,
right? But a guy like him, that's really if he could develop into that, then that's somebody that's a huge piece, really important piece to have a guy like MPJ.
Yeah, true. I do agree. And Atlanta, they just got rid of DeJounte Murray, so interested what they'll do if they're going to start him his first year, if they're going to slowly bring him in. So very interested to see what he does in the future. Just some other guys. Someone that's really lit it up so far in the summer league, the number 3 pick in the draft, who's probably been the best rookie so far, has been Reed Shepherd.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to find a player comp to him just because, he's short, but he plays really good defense. He can shoot it from everywhere. And he's just a tough-nosed defender. But, we're getting our first call in, so let's see what this caller has to say. Hello, caller.
Hey, I would like to comment on the Kings, please.
Okay, yeah, let's get it going.
Right now?
Yeah, you're live on air.
This is Frank. Yeah, I thought that the Kings got DeMar DeRozan as the number 2 pick.
DeMar DeRozan.
No, to play the shooting guard.
Oh, to play the shooting guard. I think DeMar is more of a 3 right now, especially in this modern NBA. But if they do start him at the 2, they'd probably end up putting Trey Lyles in that starting lineup, which has got some buzz around. What do you think of that, Devin?
I think it really just depends on if they do make any more moves. I know we already heard Monty say that this is the core they're going to go into at least training camp with, but it just depends on if they make some smaller moves, like for a wing defender. I could see them keeping Keegan at the 4, starting that wing defender, and then DeRozan at the 2. But I think he could either start at small forward or shooting guard. It just depends on the moves they make.
Yeah. What do you think, caller? Do you think they should start Trey Lyles and DeRozan at the 2, or do you think they should start Keon or Malik?
I love Trey Lyles. I don't know if he's a starter on that team.
I agree.
But I thought DeMar DeRozan's 6'3". How is he going to play the 3 in the NBA?
Yeah, he's about 6'5", 6'6", DeRozan. He's not the best defender, and the Kings already have a
shooting guard size.
Yeah.
Three's got to be 6'7", 6'8" with long arms.
Yeah, that's true. That's what the Kings are, trying to go out there and get. But he did come into the league as a shooting guard for sure. Back in the day, he was a shooting guard, but I think more of the modern NBA is getting some guys out there that can
Smaller
space
size,
the floor.
yeah.
The Warriors really started that.
And that's again, I think it goes back to the moves that they're going to end up making going into the season. So if they get that wing defender at the 3, but if not, I could also see them sliding somebody else into the 4 if they get a good 4, and then starting Keegan at the 3, and then DeRozan shooting guard.
Yeah,
I would prefer that because I want Malik on the floor and I want him to start. I feel he's earned it, and they're paying him money, and he's one of our best players. And I live by the thing that you start your best players.
I agree. Yeah, I think he should start this year too. But then if you do start Malik, then does that mean was that one of the times that you would slot DeRozan to the 3? Then if you want them all on the court at the same time.
Wow, right. I didn't think about that, but hey, I like your show. Keep it up and go Kings.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Go Kings. All right. So that was our first call ever on Beam City Sports. Hope you guys could hear that okay. It was a little weird with the plug, but it's all good. Who do you think the Kings should start, Devin? If you had to say right now, no trades being made, Kevin Huerter still on the team, what do you think they should do?
Kevin Huerter still on the team. I think honestly, I don't think Kevin Huerter is anywhere close to as bad as what he put on last season. Granted, it was a big sample size, but I don't think I don't think he's going to play anywhere close to that bad this year. So I think you give him a short leash, maybe start him to start the year, and that's where you would maybe put DeRozan at the 3 because Kevin also is a tall guy. He's a tall guy, kind of long, not as long as the others, but he's 6'9", 6'8".
Yeah,
so
yeah, he is tall.
Either him at the 3 or DeRozan, but I think maybe start him, give him a short leash, and if not, then you got to go right to Malik.
Yeah, true. I wonder if, in the contract negotiation with Malik, he did sign right away, so I wonder if they promised him a starting spot, or, he did say he's okay with coming off the bench still.
The interview, he said he would rather start, but I feel like he's just one of those guys that's so comfortable in his own skin, and in any role you put him in, he's just going to excel. So
yeah,
but I believe he definitely wants to start, and he deserves it. So we'll see. It's going to be a lot of thinking to do for Monty and the Kings to start the season.
I agree. But Malik, it really doesn't matter who starts. It matters who finishes the game,
minutes,
and he's going to finish every game. And
100%.
That offense out there with De'Aaron, Malik, DeRozan, Keegan, and Sabonis really sounds like a top 5 offense in the NBA.
Yeah. When you think about it, obviously you know that Domas and Malik have that just crazy chemistry. Malik has that chemistry with any big he plays with after a while, but you got Malik and Domas with that crazy chemistry. I mean, Keegan and Domas coming off the DHO. A lot of stuff just revolves around Domas, but then you have DeRozan there who, a lot like Harrison Barnes was at times in a couple years ago, where if the offense was sputtering, he could slow it down and get him a bucket. I think that's DeRozan, but just to a whole nother level.
It really is. I feel like the first year when the Kings started lighting the beam and it was really that Cinderella run, whenever the Kings' offense would get stagnant, I feel like Harrison would kind of save us. He'd go to the line, get fouled, or do something, make something happen. And DeRozan is just that times 10. He gets a ton of free throws. He shoots about 85% at the line, which the Kings really struggled with last year, was shooting at the free throw line. And he's just a great ISO scorer. So I do think that this offense is going to break some records in the NBA.
Back to more the 2022 offense we saw that first year that they made the playoffs. Yeah,
exactly. We got 2 minutes before our first break, but I would like to mention another rookie really quick. Alex Sarr from the Washington Wizards. He's had a pretty good summer league. I'd compare him to Jaren Jackson Jr., but yesterday he had an absolute stinker out there. Alex Sarr set a record. He was 0 for 15 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, and 0 for 2 from the free throw line. Finished with 0 points. And that's the number 2 pick in the draft. So
I think that's some part of what you want to see. You want to see him go out there being aggressive, but after a certain point, I think it's on either the player or the coach to realize maybe let's pull him, or maybe get him to stop taking as many shots. But especially to start the game, you want to see your guy being aggressive. But when you get to a certain point where 0 for 15, it just makes it look that much worse for yourself.
Yeah, and the Wizards, they're going to give him the ball. So I think it is. You are making a good point that it is like a good time to develop and get those missed shots out of the way and hopefully learn from it and work on it. But I do expect big things from Alex Sarr. He's a little bit like Wembanyama, but just not as skilled, I would say, and doesn't, have the handle like Wemby and even the length. He's almost as tall, but just the long arms that Wemby has are just insane. Yeah. But we're gonna go to our first break in about 1 minute. Anything else from the Sacramento Kings? Going in next year, DeRozan. We got Jordan McLaughlin. What do you think of that pickup?
I think I think that was a really important pickup, especially after we learned that Devin Carter was going to have this old shoulder surgery, and he was, we don't know how long he's going to be out to start the year. But to me, that was a guy, when we picked him, I was like, he might be able to come in, and just the way he plays and the dog that he has, he might be able to make an impact immediately. So I think McLaughlin was a really important pickup to solidify that backup point. I know you don't like Keon there, but you can throw Keon there. You can have Malik run the point, but just to have another guy who is a point guard, I think that was really important pickup.
I definitely agree. And getting rid of Davion, you needed someone else to handle the ball there if De'Aaron goes down or anything happens like that. But we'll get back into this after our first break. We're also going to get into some baseball, talking San Francisco Giants and some Oakland A's. All right, we'll be right back.
All right, we are back. This is Beam City Sports on 96.5 FM.
KUBU Radio. And this is Tyler Texeira here with lifelong friend Devin Neel. And how you been liking the show so far, Devin?
It's been fun. It's been a really cool experience. I'm having a good time for myself. I enjoyed I'm glad that I was here for the first ever call. I enjoyed that, the banter back and forth with the caller. So, it's been really fun. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, that was really cool to get the call on there. We'll figure out the kinks of that going forward if it sounded bad or anything like that. But it's all good. We're going to spend the second half of the show talking all baseball, something me and you have played pretty much our whole lives, where we grew up together, where we met. But you've always been a San Francisco Giants fan. I've always been an Oakland A's fan.
Yep.
So I want to. We'll start off with the MLB All-Star Game. Yeah, it was yesterday. So what did you see from the All-Star Game?
I didn't catch the home run derby. I didn't. There was no want for me. I didn't really.
There wasn't too many big names in the home run derby this year.
Yeah, I think that was also a part of it. And then part of it for just me personally is I think I would like to see them return to the 10-out format, just the regular, just what it was. I think that was when it was really at its peak. And then especially if they could, keep getting these sluggers to do it, especially, I'm glad we still got Pete Alonso in there. But other than that, I would like some, maybe a couple bigger names. But, I heard it was fun. I heard people enjoyed it. But, for me, I would like to see them get back to that, 10-out format.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but I do agree. I did used to like the 10-out format a lot more. We used to do that, like playing the All-Stars with just 10 outs.
Yeah.
Like that's just a normal way to play. Now they do it all weird where it's timed and you get timeouts and it's like bonus.
I think it was fun the first couple of years they started to do it, but I think they've added too many slight wrinkles in there for me at least. So I think it would be really cool if we got to see them return to the original format.
Yeah, I like that take. But we did see Los Angeles Dodger Teoscar Hernandez win the home run derby, and he went against Gunnar Henderson, who is a stud in Baltimore, shortstop, and Bobby Witt Jr. Also, they went down to the wire in the final round, so that was really cool to see. But let's move on to the actual All-Star game. The San Francisco Giants had two players in this All-Star game. It was Sacramento's own Logan Webb.
Yeah, Rockland. Shout out Rockland, Logan Webb, and then Elliot Ramos.
His
first time.
Is Elliot Ramos a rookie this year?
No, I believe his service time is up because he was pulled up and sent back down so many times just throughout the last few years. But so I believe it might be officially his second year. I believe his service time's up. But it is the first full, basically. I mean, he still has about 80 less at-bats than everybody else on the team, but basically his first full season in the MLB full-time.
Yeah, and he's probably still leading the team in homers or something like that.
I think he's a couple ahead of Chapman. He got 16, 15, I believe.
Yeah. But yeah, so how did he end up getting called up? Because I know he didn't start the year with the Major League Club.
So he had a really bad start to his spring training. He got invited to, how they invite all the prospects to the camp to start the year. He was one of the first ones sent back to minor league camp. So he was really struggling to start out spring training and to start out camp. And then, honestly, after the first couple of weeks of the season down there in AAA, he just got really hot. And, he was playing better than Matos. He was down there playing better than Luciano. He was probably the best prospect we had playing down there in Sacramento. And then you don't want to wish for injury, but I think that injury to Jung-Hoo Lee and then Slater ended up getting hurt a couple, days right after him. So I think that was what really forced their hand. But, looking back on it, obviously you wish they had done it a little bit earlier, but I'm glad it happened. Yeah.
It's crazy that, the Giants went out this offseason and signed Jung-Ho Lee, and you were super excited about that, and I know a bunch of people were.
It was super fun to watch him play, even the, first couple months we did get to watch. You could tell he's going to be a really exciting player to watch in this league. He plays a great center field. His at-bats are really fun to watch. He never out of an at-bat. He always battles. Even he'll take the first two, and you'll end up 3-2 almost every at-bat. A lot like what we used to see with Brandon Belt, but just more of a contact hitter. He's just going to slap some base hits, but he does have that power in there. So watching him hit's been really fun, but just really, heartbreaking to see that injury going into the wall. Matos almost did it. I think they need to fix that wall out there in center field.
Right center, yeah. Yeah. So you would say Jung-Ho is kind of like a leadoff hitter, and do you hope for him to be the leadoff hitter next year?
Yes, and I think he will be, and he was all year this year. I think I like him the most at leadoff. I like Lamont Wade. He's also a great contact hitter. I like him either at the 2 or 3, and then just fill in the rest after that. But I think once he comes back, he will definitely be starting again in center field, and he will be leading off every game.
Yeah, that's awesome. But the San Francisco Giants did struggle yesterday in the All-Star game.
Yes.
Logan Webb came in and ended up giving up 3 runs.
Yeah, nothing new really for, Giants starting pitchers or Giants pitchers in the All-Star game. Always end up giving up a few runs, but, it's just cool to see them there and, cool that they get to be there with their families and really look like they're having fun. But, par for the course for these Giants All-Star pitchers.
Yeah. And then Ellie Ramos just got out and has one at bat.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy from the Giants, but we'll stay on San Francisco before we move to some A's talk. But the Giants right now are 47-50, but they're only 3 games back of the wild card. So how confident are you in this team to kind of make a playoff push?
It's so frustrating this season. That's the best way I could put it. It's really frustrating. They, as soon as you think they're playing good baseball, they're going to get back to 500 and hopefully go on a run to get over. They, lose a couple series they shouldn't to a couple teams that they shouldn't have. And, that's just been the theme of the year. Overall, the third wild card spot, I'd like it. I like having an extra team in the playoffs, but I think it's just, kind of rewarding teams for being mediocre, I would say. We're 3 games out of a playoff spot, and I think this has not been a good year to me at all. There's been good times and good moments, but the year overall has been really frustrating, and I couldn't give you a specific grade on it right now, just because if they do end up making the playoffs, then it would have been a good season. Hopefully they can make some noise in the playoffs. The third wild card team won the World Series last year, or made the World Series last year. So,
crazy, yeah.
Hopefully if they do, they make some noise, then it's a good season. But if not, then I don't think you'll see Farhan Zaidi back for more time with the Giants after this year. Maybe Bob Melvin, who knows? But I think unless they make the playoffs, his time is pretty much, these are his last couple months as baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah. Devin's coming for San Francisco Giants' head right now. But they are. So you said they're 3 games under 500, but they're only 3 games out. So kind of a weird year.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of bunched together in this NL wild card. You got some teams with very similar records that are I
think there's only 2 teams that are at really farther than 3 games back out of the wild card in the NL.
But there are a few NL West teams ahead of the Giants right now, like the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and of course the Dodgers.
Yeah, of course.
But as an A's fan, I used to love Bob Melvin, so it's crazy to see him and Matt Chapman, be a part of this Giants team. So how do you feel about Bob Melvin so far this year? Just with the pitching rotation, with the starting lineups, with the moves he's made.
I really can't rag on him too hard. He gets I wouldn't say gets under my skin, but makes a few decisions that definitely make me turn and scratch my head sometimes. With the bullpen management. But the lineups have been pretty consistent. There's no complaints about the lineups. He's doing what he can with the players that he has, and then especially the pitching rotation. It was crazy that the Giants really came into this year with 2 starting pitchers. One was hurt. One's Logan Webb. The other is a guy who you're trying to make a starter, which it's been really fun to watch Jordan Hicks this year. But they really came into the year with 2 starters, and they got Snell a couple weeks after the season started. But that's, to me, isn't on Bob Melvin. I can't give Bob Melvin too much flack for that. I think that's really that's more front office. But I would say I would like him back for another year. I'm not fire Bob Melvin yet or anything. I'm pretty half and half on him still, but I do like how the players really respond to him. They really love Bob Melvin, especially Matt Chapman and Blake Snell and the guys from the old San Diego team and the old A's team. So I would say, I'd give Bob Melvin a definitive grade on the season. So far, I'd probably give him a C, solid C.
Okay, that's all right. Some of those years he had in Oakland were just straight magical. So
yeah, so you hope
gave
he
me some great
get
memories.
back to that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was really curious to ask you about some of the Giants' young prospects, like Kyle Harrison. You were super high on him coming into this year, and I just want to ask, what do you think about his performance? So far?
Honestly, I think a lot of people are coming online coming for Kyle Harrison, but I think he's still 22, right? And when Logan Webb was 22, and a few years ago, back in 2018-19, he was like 6-11. So you can't really you want them to be developing at this stage, and you can't really put a lot of stock into, the bad or the good, really. But I think there's been still a lot more good than bad from Kyle Harrison this year. His ERA is kind of up there a little bit. He lowered the he took some off the velo to kind of, help with his command. I don't think it's helped as much as he would like it to have so far. But, he just needs to – I think he needs to throw that changeup and he needs to throw that curveball a lot more because basically right now hitters know he's a one-pitch pitcher and it's just going to be that hard fastball, and it's not as hard as it used to be. So, and I think in his last start he did that. He threw the changeup more. He threw the off-speed a lot more, and he had a really good outing last time. So I'm still excited about Kyle Harrison, and I will be for a while.
Yeah, he is super young still. But someone more developed that, you guys just picked up that you mentioned earlier was Blake Snell. Didn't Blake Snell win the Cy Young last year?
Yeah, Blake Snell, he beat Logan Webb out for the Cy Young.
So you guys have the top two last year runnings for the Cy Young. I know he came into the year hurt. I did hear he was a little out of shape coming into the year.
Yeah, I mean, he had no spring training, obviously, and so, and that's, I'd say probably most important for baseball players, that first, getting back into it, especially for a pitcher, because they're, you could throw as many bullpens as you want, but throwing to live hitters is completely different. So, yeah, it was looking pretty bad to start the year, but, they sent him on a little rehab stint. I think it was 3, 4, 5 games, and he started to come back into shape, and then he came back his last 2 starts, and he had a perfect game into the 6th with an out or 2 his last start. So, yeah.
I did see that. So, hopefully he can get back to that San Diego Padres, Tampa Bay Rays, Blake Snell. I remember seeing Blake Snell in the World Series a few years ago.
When they took him out.
Yeah, when the Rays were playing the Dodgers, and he was pitching an absolute gem.
I think he had a no-hitter in that one, too.
Yeah. And then the manager took him out.
Yeah.
Like you said, they took him out in about the 8th inning when he didn't give up any runs. And then, of course, the bullpen comes in and blows it, and then the Dodgers win. So, the Giants hopefully Blake Snell can get back to that and just let him ride. Just don't take him out when he's riding.
Yeah, no, and I think Bob Melvin, that's one thing that I really have liked about Bob Melvin this year is if he sees his pitcher is, in a groove, he's not going to be quick to get you out. Like Logan Webb has gone into the 7th more than any pitcher this year in the MLB. He's thrown over 100 pitches multiple times that I've watched. So that's one thing that I really like about Bob is if he sees you're in a groove and, he knows you're feeling it, then he'll let you keep going out there and he'll run that pitch count up to 100. So hopefully we get to see more of that from Blake Snell. He's going to walk people. He led the league in walks last year, even though he won the Cy Young. But
that's crazy.
You'll take that with, if he's back into that Cy Young form, you'll take the walks. You don't really worry about that too much.
Yeah, true. Walking people is one of the worst things you can do as a pitcher. So that is kind of crazy to think that he led the league in walks, but still won the Cy Young.
Now when, pitch count is such a... Yeah. Not a lot of managers are like Bob Melvin and like to, let that pitch count run up there. So especially nowadays, wasting any pitches is going to make it tough on you for a pitcher.
Yeah, very true. We saw that right before the All-Star break as well with young rookie phenom Paul Skeens. He was throwing a no-hitter, and he got through the 7th inning, right?
I think that was the second time he's done that this year. And they took him out.
They take him out.
I think he was only at 85 to 90 pitches this time. So I would give him another inning, especially if it was already the 8th.
Yeah, and he would have been – that was like his 11th start in the MLB.
Yeah,
and he was throwing a no-hitter. And then they take him out, and, of course, the bullpen comes in and gives up a hit. But they still ended up winning the game. But, yeah, Paul Skeens has really took the league by storm already. Yesterday it was big buzz, him versus Aaron Judge in the All-Star game.
That was fun. One pitch, but it was still pretty fun.
Yeah, it was. But, yeah, we'll move on to some Oakland A's talk, The A's only had one All-Star this year. It was their young closer, Mason Miller, who ended up going 1-2-3 in his inning of work, and he's been real dominant all year. And there's just so many teams out there trying to give the A's crazy packages for him. Yeah,
I like Mason Miller a lot. He's an old starter, right? Is that
why he used to be a starter,
converted starter, closer. He throws 100 miles an hour. Yeah, he's been incredible to watch so far this year and, really fun. And I'm excited that the A's, have something that, honestly, they've been playing at times better baseball than the Giants this year.
Decently,
so,
yeah.
I'm excited that they, got something to, tune into, at least if it's not, if you got Mason Miller. So and he's been a joy to watch this year.
That's very true. Hopefully the A's, they only have 37 wins right now compared to the Giants' 47. So it has been still a really bad year for Oakland, last place in their division, but...
And that kind of tells you about how I'm feeling about the season. And if I'm telling you at points that the A's have been playing better than the Giants and they're 10 games under where the Giants are, then,
Yeah, I do remember early in the year the A's and the Giants are pretty much neck and neck record-wise.
Yeah.
And the A's were kind of playing good baseball, but they've really fallen off, and it's not anyone's fault except John Fisher. I'm just going to say that. It's not anyone's fault except John Fisher. But yesterday was really exciting. Mason Miller, like we said, he set the record for the fastest pitch in All-Star Game history, and he struck out Shohei Ohtani after that. He threw a 103.6 mile an hour fastball. So it would be kind of cool to see him, maybe if the A's are still struggling at the end of the year, maybe try him as a starter again.
I think that would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
If you're still down in the dumps and you're not trying to make a push for the playoffs, maybe why not? Like, I wonder if there was a certain reason that they did move him from starter to closer.
Yeah.
That maybe makes them not want to go back and try that. But, why not?
Yeah.
I think that could be fun.
The A's pitching staff is really nothing to be excited about. So I wouldn't see I don't know why you wouldn't try it,
Yeah.
We see a lot, openers these days where they go 1-2 innings.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. But I think it would be really cool to maybe see, he's our star player. And if he's just only pitching 1 inning every couple games when the A's are up in the 9th inning, I just don't think that's worth it. I think you need to get more value out of him.
Yeah, maybe he could be a guy like Jordan Hicks and, take some of the velo off, at least for the first few innings, save it for the big spots, when you're in a clutch strikeout situation, you want to run it up there past 102, go ahead. But, maybe become a guy who just doesn't rely on the speed of the fastball as much. And, he's got nasty secondary pitches. So if he, maybe ticks down the fastball a couple of miles per hour and then, he could go from there. And I think I would be really excited to see that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some other guys that I've, noticed on this Oakland A's team that, have kind of been around the last few years, but I think are actual staples to this team, moving forward. There's not too many of them. I would say Brent Rooker.
Oh, yeah. He had, 940 OPS, and he didn't make the All-Star team?
Yeah. That's just because the A's are horrible. But Brent Rooker is a stud out there in right field. Also, Zach Geloff, the second baseman.
Yep.
I do like him a lot. And Shea Langoliers.
He's the catcher.
He has
been around
17 homers right now.
What is it, his 4th or 5th year? He's relatively young.
He's relatively young.
Yeah. I like him a lot, too.
That's really it with this A's roster right now. I don't see anyone else, really in the long-term plans. I do hope when they move to Sacramento that we get kind of a Moneyball type of year.
Yeah. But, would that push them to continue to keep doing that and not, going out and signing star players and, John Fisher going to be John Fisher. He's going to trade the best player you got. So,
man, yeah, all an Oakland A's fan can hope for at the beginning of the year is just please give me a Moneyball type year, like a 2012, just come out of nowhere. They signed Cespedes that year, and then out of nowhere they become one of the best teams.
And maybe if they do end up making it to Vegas, whole nother topic on that. I got a whole nother opinion on that. But if they do end up making it to Vegas, maybe that's finally when you see John Fisher kind of hopefully open the checkbook and start paying some free agents or start extending some of the, rookies instead of trading them like they've been doing. So, but, that's a whole nother topic about getting to Vegas that I won't get into. It's
still up in the air if the A's are going to be able to move to Vegas. They want to build this ballpark that's absolutely huge. That it's not going to get
billions
filled.
Of dollars.
Yeah, people in Vegas,
they don't want to pay it.
Yeah, they have a lot of better things to do than to go watch the Oakland A's, who are just pretty much a minor league baseball team.
Terrible, yes.
Yeah, if the A's were good and exciting, and they had a bunch of star players, then maybe people would go out and watch.
Yeah, and then maybe the residents of Las Vegas would be more like, let's get this done, and it'd only be here for maybe a year. But I don't even know how that it's going to work out, them being in Sacramento. It's going to be through the months of June through August. It's going to be hundreds of degrees. They're going to turn it into turf. I heard they're going to add more seats. I don't know what they're going to do, but I am excited and kind of, scared to see how that's all going to work out,
Yeah. I think the move to Sac is going to work out pretty well. I think hopefully, with that weather, like you said, in the summer, I hope we see some big offense. The park isn't too big.
Oh, the ball's going to carry.
Yeah, the ball's going to carry. Yeah. So, hopefully the A's can just learn how to play on their home turf, like you said, and then hopefully get some young guys coming up out of nowhere. Are there any young guys, in the Giants, in Sacramento right now that you're really interested in? Maybe Luciano?
Yeah, I'm still excited about Luciano. I mean, if they were to bring him back up right now, he'd still have one of the best averages, OPSs on the team. He only played for a few weeks, but he was hitting very well that whole time. And, that was one of the things besides defense that was like, he hasn't put together a lot of consistent at-bats yet in the minor leagues, but he was doing it in the major leagues. So that's, for me, all I really need to see about his hitting. He's got a lot of power the other way, but it's really just he's got to hone it in at short. And, maybe they move him to second. He's been starting a couple games at second base the last couple nights in Sacramento. So maybe they do that. They move him to first. I think he's got a good enough arm to be a corner outfielder. It's just depending on what they want to do with him and if he wants to, put in the work to stay at the position he's at now. But he's a guy that I'm still excited about. Carson Wisenhunt, haven't heard a lot about him. Like just
starting pitcher.
Yeah, just social media wise, but looking at the stats down there, he's been having a okay year. I'd say, especially we'll see when the A's get here, but Sacramento is a really great place to hit.
Yeah,
especially
like
that Rivercat Stadium. Yeah. So, his ERA is up there a little bit, but I'm still really excited about him. A lefty who throws low to mid-90s and then has just got that nasty changeup. So, lefties are always good to have. I'm very excited for him still. I think he's still in the top 50 prospect MLB thing. And then
and then your boy, Casey Schmidt.
Yeah,
who's been up and down.
Yeah, I'm still excited about him. I think he's got a great glove already. There's nothing he needs to work on glove-wise. I think he already, when scouts saw him, got compared to a lot of Matt Chapman comparisons, and I think they are spot on with that at third base. It's just he hasn't, a lot like Luciano, he's been tearing it up in the minor leagues, but the times he's been up, besides the last time he was up, he was kind of putting together a lot of really good at-bats, and that was what was making me really excited. And then he got sent back down for, I think Ahmed came back at the time, but that last time he was up, he was showing what you want to see, and he was making improvements at the plate. He was laying off the pitches he usually swings at, which is that slider down and away and that fastball that kind of handcuffs him up on top of the hands. And he was driving the ball with, relatively some ease. Honestly, I was at the Giants-Yankees, one of the Giants-Yankees games, and he seeing him hit that home run, like that was really fun. So I'm really excited for him. He's got to put it together at the plate, and then I think he could be a piece that comes up within the next couple of years. So he's still relatively young as well. So a lot of guys, honestly, that I'm really excited about in the Giants organization. It's just
I kind of wish they would play them right now instead of playing like Nick Ahmed
and that's the thing
and some
about
older guys.
The third wild card is it's I don't want to say rewarding, but it's continuing to let them just be mediocre. And the next, what is it, 6 to 12 games before the actual trade deadline, this is really going to determine where the rest of their season is going to go. If they could get to 500 or at least a little bit above, make a little bit of dent in that wild card, then I don't think you'll see them sell. But honestly, if I'm being honest, and they don't really put a good stretch of games together, then I think that this is the time that they need to sell, and they need to see what they exactly have out of a lot of these young guys that we're so excited to see.
Yeah. Back to Luciano before we move on. I'm really intrigued by him. But it is kind of interesting to think about, like, such a young athlete that's, super athletic and can hit the ball. Like you said, he's a great hitter, but just the fielding part at shortstop, you usually think of those guys as being such great fielders.
Especially when we saw Crawford for the last 15 years. Yeah, it's weird. His hands aren't that soft, and it's, he made a couple where you just got to know the runner. He was taking too long and, let the runner get a base hit. But it's really weird. It's really interesting. Like, I don't know what it is, man. If they're going to end up moving him, outfield, first base. But
I like that move, honestly. Get him in the lineup any way you can,
exactly.
Especially against lefties,
exactly.
I would say. Yeah.
And he was hitting, and that's the main thing. As good as he was hitting at the time he was this year, any way you can get him in the lineup, you got to do that.
Yeah. Let's move on to the A's, back to the A's, I think they need to stay in Sacramento. I think, this Vegas move isn't going to work out. I just think Sacramento needs to get behind keeping them here and funding it, because that's the only issue is the funding.
And I could see, honestly, from what I've seen on social media, online, stuff like that, is a lot of people would enjoy it more if they did stay in Sacramento. And,
I agree, yeah.
I think it'd be pretty cool, too, especially if they either made a new stadium or just did crazy renovations to the stadium we have now. But I think, and that's the last thing besides, bringing the Monarchs back, that the people of Sacramento really want, like, a baseball team. And I think that they would, honestly, they are probably going to pack that stadium for the first year, at least every home game. The people of Sacramento are going to pack out the, what is it? Is this O'Reilly Field?
Yeah.
They're going to pack that out, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If we could get some culture going, like when the A's are here, I think we should light a green beam in the air when they win.
Beam.
Let's just, and with the Sac Republic, I think they should also light a beam and just make it like a Sacramento thing. Yeah,
I could get behind that.
And like you said, the people of Sacramento, everyone we've talked to, everyone that's heard about it, is actually really excited for the A's to be in Sac. And so I think people of Sacramento can get behind it. I just think that the funding needs to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to work out in Vegas, like I said.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, with the Raiders already being there as well, like,
yeah.
I know it's only one game a week, but that just gives people to do on that.
That feels more Vegas to me,
it
too,
does.
is 1 day a week, one game a week,
yeah.
or however many it is, 6 to 8 a year at home. Like, I think that's more of a Vegas sounding, people of Vegas would want to just, it's Sunday, it's a lazy Sunday, let's go to, and they're rich, so let's go to the Raiders game, let's go sit a good seat. So
Yeah,
I
agree.
No, I don't think the people of Vegas want it, and I know the people of Sacramento would love to have the A's full-time, or at least any baseball team. If it's not going to be the A's, if we can get an expansion team out here, just any way we can get a baseball team out here, I know the people of Sacramento would absolutely love that.
Yeah, let's keep the A's in Sac. All right. One more thing on the All-Star game. It was very crazy to me to see that the AL has won 10 of the last 11 All-Star games.
Yeah.
One last question before we end the show. Do you wish that the All-Star game still determined home field advantage?
It doesn't?
It doesn't.
So it doesn't, right?
It doesn't.
Okay, it's been like that for the last couple years, right?
Yeah.
No, I wish it still did, because that honestly gives a little bit... I mean, the All-Star game is fun. Like, to me, the All-Star game is more fun than the home run derby was last night.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed watching all the interviews and stuff on the field at the positions before they started the game, all the mic'd up stuff I really enjoyed. But, yeah, I think they should. That gives just that much more meaning for these players to want to play even that much more harder. So I would love if they went back to determining World Series home field.
I agree with that, and I think they should go back to that and the 10-out thing, like you said, in the home run derby. But as we're ending this show, thank you everyone for listening. This has been the third episode of Beam City Sports on 96.5 FM. This is Tyler Texeira with Devin Neel.
Yep, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. Hope to talk to you guys again soon.
All right.